Hey, everyone. Welcome. It's Isaya Gabriel from isayabell.com. And this is another one of the Isaya's Inspiring Evenings podcast episode. Today, I am talking with Nicole Brûlé-Walker for the second time. So I'm going to go and introduce a little bit about Nicole in just a minute. But just let me remind you that this is um, a series of 5 episodes that we're doing with Nicole. We are exploring the core truths, and we are discussing Nicole's core truth system, which is a pioneering framework that bridges neuroscience, somatic intelligence, and conscious leadership. Obviously, this conversation is happening live, and then it's shared in my podcast and anywhere else the guest feels like sharing. Hi, Nicole.
Hi.
Welcome. So let me read your bio to anyone who doesn't remember who you are precisely. So Nicole Brûlé-Walker is the founder of the Core Truth System, and she is drawing on over 25 years of experience working with elite athletes, entrepreneurs, and impact-driven founders to guide individuals and organizations to rewire limiting patterns and unlock sustainable performance from the inside out. Her approach uses intentional neuroplasticity, which translates complex science into deeply human transformation. Through core truths, she helps clients move beyond stress management and mindset work to recalibrate the perceptual architecture that shapes their decisions, relationships, and well being. Nicole is a strategist, a mentor, and a speaker. She is known for her clarity, compassion, and ability to reveal the blind spots between body and mind. Her work invites people to move from reaction to conscious creation by restoring coherence, authenticity, and purpose in how they lead and live their lives. Thank you for being my guest for the second time. And as I was saying, we're going to do 5 episodes. So this is episode number 2. And we will be exploring each and every one of the truth, of the core truth pillars. Do you call them pillars?
Hmm?
Do you call
We
them
can.
pillars?
I don't really, but we can.
Okay. And what do you call them?
Just the core truths.
Okay, the core truths. Let's keep it simple. So today's episode is called Beyond Blame: What Complexity Teaches Us About Human Being. Or sorry, about being human. Same. So the thing is, you tell me that well, you told me when we prepared the episode, and I wrote and I read your notes that we humans like simple things, but
We
simple
do.
things are, and simple fixes, but simple fixes are not really a good idea.
Hmm. And it's not so much that we always actively and consciously choose the simple things, it's that it feels right for us. So our brains and our nervous system love predictability and love patterns. And so we look for things that appear simple and
Mm.
then become very frustrated when that doesn't work.
Yeah, so basically, we hope that simple will work, and when it doesn't, we become frustrated. But actually, you are here to help us make friends with complex situations and complex solutions.
Definitely. Definitely, part of the core truths, and it was something that really landed with me. And I think at this time of the year, January, when people are starting to make resolutions, it feels very appropriate to be sitting here talking about it because quite often, when people discuss what their resolutions are, it is a very simple fix to a more complex problem, and
Mm,
and that is why resolutions notoriously after about a month drop off and people don't tend to keep them, because we don't recognize that whole infrastructure that's happening around us that has an impact on it. And unfortunately, people as humans start to blame themselves for this, and it causes a lot of shame, it causes a lot of blame, and it affects our feelings about ourselves. And I think,
mm,
we can relieve ourselves of that, and we can give ourselves much more inner peace if we start thinking about it as an infrastructure and seeing everything else that contributes to that goal. and how we might nudge it a little better in our direction.
So basically, we have a situation, X situation, and you're telling me that there are layers, that there
Mm,
are under and way more things at play than just, let's say, a classic New Year's resolution. I'm going to stop drinking.
mm, yeah.
Or I'm gonna, lose weight or do more physical exercise. And
Mm.
basically, it's not just one cause that I'm not doing enough exercise. There's layers of that. Am I understanding correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, to say, I think the big thing for a lot of people who go through that, I'm going to stop, drinking. It might be that they're a group of friends are all people who enjoy going out and having a drink, and so then that becomes really hard to keep because you're in an environment where people are
Yeah.
accepting
Mm,
of that, and that's something they're interested in doing, and so therefore, the problem then becomes, do I withdraw from that group? But these are
mm,
my friends who I grew up with and I have a lot in common with
yeah.
apart from that. So, it ends up sort of shifting a lot of feelings around that are maybe harder to get by than the actual sort of stopping drinking. And so,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people, it's a lot of the marketing is out there, drop a
Yeah.
dress size in 30 days or, that sort of thing. Again, it's a really complex issue. And we need to sort of be kinder to ourselves and understand that there are a number of things in our environments that create hardship for us. And so one is really trying to shift away from being able to fix everything, because if you start to analyze everything, like your relational groups around you, your environments, your body, everything that has to do your emotions at the time, if you start looking at everything around
Yeah.
it, you can start to say, these are things that I absolutely have no control over, and I'm going to take them off my list. And then you're left with the things that actually do move the needle and that you can impact on.
Mm,
And it's about then sort of choosing one or two things that feel much easier to do. And when you get those one or two things in place, the whole needle shifts in the right direction, and then you can
mm,
start really making change. And it feels like you're shifting the focus away from yourself. So if this doesn't work, it's my fault, and you
mm,
don't
mhm.
want that because it holds us back from achieving what we set out to achieve.
Yeah. So we're basically asked to move from it's simple to it's easy.
Yeah, finding
Yeah.
ease. I mean, ease and easier are kind of different things, and I think when we find ease, it's a different equation.
Hmm.
It's for example, people in a health context, they might be receiving treatments, and they may be doing lots of things themselves, and they're not feeling any better, or the condition's not changing. Um, I hear this a lot where people think I should be feeling better.
Mm,
And then it becomes a personal thing. There's something wrong with me. I'm failing. I'm not feeling better. Whereas actually, there may be so many other things going on behind that
mm,
if you start to evaluate the environment that you're in, if you're in a very high stress environment, or, you've had trauma in the past, your nervous system is not in a great state where it needs regulating, and needs to come back to a
mm,
place where you can think clearly and you can start to think of solutions. Because when we're under stress, we get tunnel vision and we see very little about how
mm.
we move forward. We maybe choose the wrong options, and it's
Yeah.
just so
And
important
and
to, yeah.
it's really interesting because it touches on many different topics, obviously. I was just literally outside of a Zoom room having a completely different conversation with someone who is struggling with money, basically.
Mm,
And her thing was, I should be better off. And again, it's the same thing. So it's her fault if she's not where she
mm,
wants to be financially. And I'm like, because I'm a spiritual entrepreneur, yes, I agree that we are each of us is the universe and we're all manifesting everything, blah, blah, blah. But it's another step to go from I am responsible for my life and for my energy to it's my fault if I fail at all times, because it then, yeah, indeed kind of cuts us, like from the environment, the circumstances, the education, the society at the time,
Mm,
and the values of society. And we were discussing that as well. Are these my values, or are
mm,
they not? So the every time I find myself going, I should be blah blah blah, more of this or less of that, I ask myself, whose values am I trying to adhere here?
mm. And that goes very much back to the first core truth that we
Yeah,
discussed
of
previously.
course, of course. Well, I'm
Yeah,
guessing your system is not about completely separated core truths, are they? They
no,
kind of
no.
intermingle. Um, but yeah, I think that I agree with you so much when you say that the if we play the blame game all the time, we're not moving the needle because we're
Mm.
staying in that, self-judgment, blame, and there is no power in there to actually do something.
Yeah, the biggest thing is you're just hitting that resistance all the time because the minute you sort of find that confidence or find that way to move forward, your brain is instantly coming back to you saying, well, actually, you're not good enough, or you're not worthy, or all those limiting beliefs keep coming back, and it's getting rid of that resistance and being a lot kinder to yourself and seeing that there are probably a number of things if you sat down and mapped it all out, which I quite often do with my clients, is sort of say, what is your main central problem? Now I want you to map out all the different factors that affect this.
Mm,
And so when you start looking at it as a whole big picture, there are probably 50% of those things that you have absolutely no control over. So you can just let them go straight away.
mm,
Um, and it actually enlightens you a little bit more as to, maybe there's something here that I haven't thought about. So instead of being in a blame game, you're sort of thinking about things with more curiosity.
mm,
What does this information tell me?
mm. Yeah, and investigating where the thing comes from,
Mm,
and then finding the various, I don't want to say causes, but the various elements that you can or cannot have an effect on.
mm.
So yeah, it's an invitation to be kind to yourself.
Absolutely,
Curious
absolutely.
first, so kind of really put yourself into in detective mode, um, because we are also, again, if we go for the simple thing, oh, I'm fat because I ate too much, and that's it.
Mm,
And actually, no, it's, there's more to it than that. So first is agreeing that there is more to it than that, then investigating what this more is, and then being compassionate about the things that you cannot move or change.
mm, mm.
I feel like I'm summing up very broadly. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of an example. I mean, uh, one of the clients I've worked with in the past is, and a big part of it, that I deal with is sort of burnout and anxiety. Partly because those are very complex issues. It isn't only down to one thing that's
Mm,
creating those scenarios, and it's never down to us as a person. We're not failing. We're not to blame. There's nothing there that we should be worried about on a personal level, but it's a chance to investigate. Maybe there are things going on around us that we need to change a little bit and change that environment, change our relationships, change, our relationship with our body. Maybe there are things we can do to be kinder to
mm.
ourselves to get past that. And it comes up so often that people want to lay the blame at their own feet, and it's just so unnecessary.
I love that. I love that. The idea that it doesn't matter whether it's true or not. It's just unnecessary because
Mm,
sorry, it doesn't solve anything. Blaming
yeah.
myself means that I am even more stuck than I was before, because then
Mm,
if it's all my fault, I'm just, I might as well either curl up in a ball and cry, or blame myself for days on end and basically take no action. So yeah, it's unnecessary. I love that, so I love that because it's not about whether it is your fault or not, but it is unnecessary for me to think that it's my fault.
Mm.
It won't
And
help me find any solutions. So forget about it.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I know sort of personally, I had a lot of issues sort of growing up with around perfectionism, and I wanted everything to be perfect and tried so hard. And, and I did everything I possibly could and just fried myself in the process of trying to be absolutely perfect. And in the end, what I put out or what was produced is something that I look back on and I think, hey, if I did it differently today, it would be a totally different outcome. It would be a different project. It would be a different thing because we evolve and everything, every day we wake up and we've learned something new from the day before and we're a changed person as a result of that. And I think we need to sort of be kinder to ourselves and understand that, yeah, every day we get up is a new page, a new story, and we have learned something. And so what was perfect yesterday may not be perfect today. And we, we do have to allow ourselves that grace to sort of move through it.
I love the message of be kind to yourself, allow yourself some grace, be nice to yourself. It's like we've been so conditioned, I think, to be hard on ourselves, to, work harder, do harder, try harder, and not acknowledge when we've had enough, when we can't anymore, and when we don't understand. That's also part of what I love about this complexity idea is that we are led to believe that if we don't understand, we're stupid, and we still need to keep going. And the invitation to investigate, really, and to do detective work and to be curious about this complexity in our lives goes very much against productivity because it means
Mm,
stopping, right? It means let me stop and assess, map
mm,
out the whole thing and see where 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 is my problem coming from. Um, and I'm yeah, it goes against do more, work
mm.
harder, uh, because it means stopping to assess. Um, how much of this do you believe that we can do on our own, or do we need some, exterior eye to ask us the weird, disturbing questions that we don't want to answer?
I think sometimes it's not only a case of having a mentor or a therapist or somebody who's there helping us and along this journey. It's about having um it's about having a collective, of people at the same time going
Mm,
through the same thing. And I think there's a lot of power in that. Um, there was an eminent psychologist called Irving Yalom, and he did a lot of writing about group therapy and kind of pioneered this as an approach. And I really liked a lot of what he had to say about it. There's such power in the collective
mm,
because we don't feel alone for a start. And I think it can be very isolating when you start pointing the finger back at yourself
mm,
and you're feeling to blame for something. There's a level of shame. You may not want to share that initially, but then somebody else shares something that feels very similar to yours, and you go, I'm not the only one doing
mm,
this.
mm,
Um, and when you start to sort of talk about things, there are things that you've never even thought about that are part
mm,
of the environment that you're in that create roadblocks for you to achieve
mm,
what you want. And I love how you were talking about productivity, it being the anti-productivity,
mm,
and
mm,
so much of what we've been, and it happens a lot in business. Productivity is key, and everybody wants to get the most out of everyone,
mm,
but that pushing creates resistance, and so when we actually take that resistance away, suddenly everything opens: creativity, ideas, work ethic. People feel more included, and people work together better. And
mm.
it's
Yeah.
just so important to take the extra pressure off, however that might be.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love the idea that it's not, again, it's not for you to be fixed by a therapist.
Mm,
Not always, but it's sometimes the collective can be a mirror and support to investigate this complexity and to feel less lonely. Because I think that the when we hit rock bottom in whatever way, shape, or form, the the loneliness and the shame that you mentioned are very obvious, you know.
Mm.
And so
And
sharing
I,
that.
yeah, and I do think we've been through some extraordinary things in the last 5 years. And it's changed the way people work, it's changed the
Yeah.
way people communicate with each other, it's changed relationships, whether people have come back on board afterwards. And it's I think as a society we probably are more lonely than we ever were.
Mm,
And there are things out there for us to get involved in, and I think we stop ourselves because of how we feel about ourselves. And when we can stop taking the blame and feeling better about ourselves, we open ourselves to so many opportunities to collaborate and to be with others.
mm. So one way out of the complexity is to just love yourself, which I hear myself saying, just love yourself, and I make myself laugh, obviously,
Hmm.
because if that was simple, we'd have been there, all of us.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. And you think about there are people out there who've, read the books, they've seen the therapist, they've had the coaches, they've done all the work, but yet they still feel stuck in this cycle. And it's because nobody ever, can see your entire life and have all the
yeah.
information that you
Mm,
have around you to understand exactly why it's not working. And so only I think it is the job we have to do ourselves. We do have to look at what can I do to change it.
hmm And finding for me, one of the things that was key when I did take some time is seeing where was a choice of mine
Mm,
that I then considered to be unmovable, unshakable, you know. Um, I was like, oh, but this is still a choice. I can then change that choice. I can choose differently. Um, but very often, I got stuck with my choices, then forgetting that there were choices, and then having them, oh, it's established. Like, I live in France in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle of nowhere. And we've been discussing with my husband, we're getting old. Does that make sense that we keep living here? Because we made a choice at some point that was coherent. Is it still nowadays? But it took us
mm,
a few months to actually acknowledge that, yeah, it's a choice. We can undo it. We can choose differently. And I think that human beings are, at least if I take myself as an example, we're creatures of habit. So
mm,
once we're into one pattern, even if it comes out of a personal choice, we kind of forget that it was a choice, and we sometimes feel that it's heavy and that, oh my God, this is so difficult. But I kind of forgot that I can just change that, make a different
yeah,
decision.
yeah,
And for me,
so
that
true.
that's part of the complexity, is that we forget that we have made some choices, and then when we take the time to maybe map this out and um, or have a conversation with somebody else that can say, "Hey, this is a choice you can do differently." I'm like, "Oh,
Mm.
all right then."
Yeah, and I think that sort of comes from, I mean, that's where I love the filters work, and that tends to be a huge part of the overall package of the core truths is understanding that a lot of the things we think are important, or the things we think we know about ourselves and who we are as a person, is actually someone else's idea.
Mm.
We can actually, we get told things as we grow up. Oh, you're the clever one, or um you're the one who helps with everything, you're always so helpful. And we take all these little snippets and we form this package of who we are. And that's actually just a small glimmer of who we could be if we
Mm.
chose
Yeah.
to make
Mm.
those decisions and do things differently. Because we start to feel stuck into that identity, and it isn't
Mm-hmm.
really us. And so when you look at the complexity of things and you map it all out, you then start to see little chinks in the armor where you say, well, look,
Mm.
I don't have to be that person.
Yeah.
It feels too heavy and too hard to be the person who's helping all the time, and actually I need help.
Mm. Yeah, I have an example for that happened to me yesterday.
Yeah,
So
very good.
I'm organizing this event, and one of the people who are participating into the event, one of the facilitators, she reached out to me and said, "Do you want some help with this particular thing?" And it came out of her good heart, really. But then I thought, hey, this is the part where I could actually shine. So if I allow her to take that spotlight, I kind of retreat backwards as the organization person, the manager, which I know I'm very good at organizing. But I also want to be in the spotlight. And I was like, so I have to acknowledge that no, actually, I'd rather not be helped, but shine my light for 5 minutes than be, as you said, given the label of, oh, she's the tech lady.
Mm.
Um, I want to be the goddess lady at this minute. And it was really interesting to see how, on the one hand, it would have been very helpful. And I would have then, you would have come into this idea that I have, which is wrong, whether I have to do everything on my own. And, it would have broken that idea. But at the same time, it would have taken away something from me. So it was really interesting, a process. It took me an hour or so to answer that offer. And indeed, it wasn't that simple. It was
Mm.
layers and layers of complications.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And then, it could open up the conversation of, were there different elements that you could give away that would make it less complex for you?
Which,
Um,
mhm.
that would sit better, that would absolutely. And, it's there's so much around that, and I, having gone through the whole perfectionism thing and feeling like I'm coming out the other side of it, I sort of understand because, you have this, for me, I was like, I need to do this myself because I know that I can do it the
It's
way
going
I
to be
want to do it.
done nicely.
Um, and sometimes you do just have to trust other people, but
Yeah,
it's very hard when you're in that sort of frame of mind that
yeah.
you need to have control over this whole thing.
No, I was really in an interesting conversation with myself, a complex one, and I ended up with writing to that lady, thank you very much for your offer. Here's why I'm saying no to it. On the other hand, I would really need help with this. And
And
so
that's a
I
perfect
was really
solution.
proud of myself for that one. Kind of, no, I don't want to be doing everything on my own anymore. I've been there, done that. Got the t-shirt, and it's a heavy t-shirt to wear.
Mm.
But I want to be helped where it helps me.
Mm. And that's a perfect example of systems thinking, that you took the situation, you analyzed how you might feel if this person took this job on and what it would mean to the overall process and what you were gaining from it and what you wanted to gain from it. And you came up with a solution that still invited some help, but on a
Hmm.
level that felt more suitable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. I got the approval from the core truth system creator. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's the thing, we feel like there's this big sense of urgency in our lives, and I think it's modern living, we're always
Mm,
on, technology is always on, we're always contactable. We've got news and things blaring at us from all directions. And I think there's far more disclosure than there ever used to be in the media. And so we get caught up in someone else's story of what's been going
mm,
on in the world. And I think, we just need to slow down. We need to give ourselves the space to actually consider things on a level that if I let this bit go, what would happen and
mm,
how could I see this unfolding? And am I happy with that? Rather than just staying in the moment of just rush, 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 and I
mm,
need to make this decision without actually considering any of those things. Because we then find we get caught up into a situation where we've made a decision about something, we've made a commitment to other people. We may not actually want to do that thing.
mm,
And then we feel stuck in that pattern. And then
mm.
there's resentment that grows and all kinds of other emotions that happen depending upon what the situation is.
Yeah, indeed, all very complex, and the speed to which the society invites us to live cannot deal with complexity. So we kind of simple solutions seem to do the job, but then they
Mm.
only seem to do the job.
And that's
Um,
the point. They are there, they're not sustainable. They don't
mm,
answer the question. They lead to more frustration. So really the answer is to slow down and consider
mm,
everything, because then we get the real answers. We start to see the
mm,
real impact behind that. And we also stop taking the blame.
yeah, I love that. So, solution number one, slow down. Solution number two, look at the shit from all
Yeah.
angles
Mm,
and find the pieces that I love that what you said at the beginning. I'm going to have you repeat that. That once we can see the situation and everything that is at hand, there's the things that are not, we have no control of.
mm,
And those we need to let go.
mm,
This is massive because we keep, I think, if I talk for myself, I'm going to go for I keep trying to change things that are not, that are completely outside of my control. Other people's actions or opinions these cannot change. And I cannot change them. And so this is exhausting trying to use that to do something about that. Um, and that also hides the things that I can actually do something about, that I
mm,
have control about.
mm.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's an incredible weight that comes with trying to take everything on, and and we just do need to sort of let go of the things that we have no pull
mm,
or impact on, and just let it be, because and that's where systems thinking really comes into its own, because you can then start to consider, when we've done something once and it's been a success, we're very likely to repeat that whole process
mm,
the next time it happens. And then what happens when some of the factors around that have changed is that it doesn't work anymore. And we go,
mm,
well, why doesn't it work anymore? Because it worked the last time.
mhm,
And we end up with this conundrum of where do we go next? And if we're allowing ourselves to sit in a system and think about everything about it and let go of what we cannot change and stay with what we can, we do start to sort of see new solutions and new ideas and new ways of doing things that are far more productive and far more sustainable. But we
mm.
have to allow ourselves the time to do that.
Yeah. And for me, really, I feel like very often the first thing that pops to mind is something that I can't change.
Mm,
So the first thing is this big tree of that hides completely any other forests of little things that I could change or have control of. And I've got this huge tree, like I can't do anything. And then I'm stuck. I'm blaming myself, obviously, because I can't do anything. Yeah, no, really interesting way to um yeah, no, I'll have to reassess my ideas about simple and complicated. Thank you for this invitation.
I
So,
know it adds so much
um,
stress, I think, and we can control how we feel about a situation, and
mm,
that in itself can change everything, because I think if we approach something with curiosity instead of feeling under threat, under stress,
mm,
we produce different ideas.
yeah,
And so it's about understanding that if we are under stress, the priority is getting out of that mode first, and
yeah,
then coming back to it when you're of a calmer mind, and that you
mm,
can actually see the solutions,
yeah,
see the wood for the trees.
yeah, exactly. So, can you please repeat the core truth number one for people who have not yet listened to that episode? Um,
So core truth number one has to do with perceptive filters, inherited filters,
mm,
and it is that we do not see life as it is, we see it as we are. So whatever state we are in currently, and the inherited filters that we take on, and the protection layers that we afford ourselves because we've been under threat in the past, it impacts on everything: how
mm,
we perceive the world, how we perceive ourselves, how our relationships are, the decisions we make, and more importantly, what's available to us.
mm. I love the what's available to us. Yes, absolutely. So that was number one. And if you haven't listened to this episode, please go and do that. It's already on my podcast. Code truth number two, it's more complex than you think it is, and it's not all your fault.
Absolutely, absolutely. That life is just complex, and that
Yeah.
we need to not always look for the simple solution because it doesn't always take everything into account and therefore isn't always the best answer.
But also, I think when you say life is complex, I want to say, yeah, and that's the joy of it. That there is so much to investigate, so much curiosity to be felt, and so much things to discover about oneself and the world in general. Um,
Mm.
Not always to fix something, but just, to investigate. I love being curious. And so we're going to do a third episode. Can you spoil us a little bit about Court Truth number 3? Just a tiny bit, not too much.
Just a tiny bit. Well, it has a lot to do with meaning and purpose. And I do love this one because I think that we think we know what those things are, but it wasn't until I started putting together the core truths and understanding that actually, again, I was inheriting things that I thought were important and they weren't actually that important to me. So the next one's going to be fun.
Yeah, awesome. So we don't have a date for that one. So, stay tuned. We'll tell you. But thank you very much. I also want you to remind everyone that they will find or any and all information about Nicole in the podcast notes or around the video or however you're watching this. So please go and investigate the complex website. Oh, I'm just joking. Please go and meet Nicole. She has some amazing features for you. And there's going to be a special present with this episode. So look out for that in the notes as well. But finally, before we end up completely, I want to have a little chat with you about your new endeavor. I've heard, my little finger told me, a little bird told me, sorry, you say in English. In French, we say, my little finger told me. So in English, a little bird told me that you are now a writer on Substack.
Mm.
Can you tell us a little bit about that, please?
Yeah. It's been something that's been creeping on a little bit quietly through the most of last year. I really reconnected with the 7, 8 year old version of myself who always wanted to be a writer. And I stopped writing anything, and that included even on social media. I mean, there was a time where I just dropped off the face of the earth, even um, because I felt I didn't really have anything that anybody wanted to hear about. And
Mm,
it was really primarily through women lighting the way and being part of your amazing, amazing summit that it just told me that there are people out there who need to hear what we have to say
mm.
and who need that support and need to understand that they're not alone. And yeah, so I'm on Substack.
I love
And
Substack. I've been on Substack for a year or so, and I really have to say that it's a completely different social media. It's about the slowing down thing. It's really a place where you can write and read long content and
mm,
take time to really read if you're just a reader or write if you're a writer. Um, Pieces that are longer, more complex, and deeper. So I think this goes with this episode. So, what is
yes.
yours about?
Oh, well, it looks at perceptual filters, identity, how we regulate our nervous systems, and just generally the complexity of being human. So it's called Notes on Being Human for a good reason. So, what I'm really loving about it again is that sort of being able to explore concepts in more detail with
Mm,
people. Um, I'm finding sort of some of the other social media platforms just are not the right place for this. Um, the algorithms aren't in your favor. It's very hard to sort of find the people who really are interested in what you have to say. And Substack just felt like a really natural move. And I love the notes because for me, I sort of wake up every day and think, okay, what is it I want to say? And generally, that's what I post about. I'm not one of these people who has everything pre-programmed for a year. It's very much in the moment. So Substack kind of allows me to put those little thoughts out there, but then maybe investigate them a little further with something even more in depth.
I like it. I like it. Well, I'm obviously a subscriber, obviously. But
Thank you.
yeah. Please, dear listeners, go and investigate and take the time to read some of Nicole's posts and maybe notes, or notes and maybe posts. On Substack, you will find the link has been added to her social media below the video. And yes, do you have any plans for 2026? Because we're recording this in January, so I have to ask, any big plans that you want to share with the world or not yet? Because January is for me, January is one of those in between months when we are asked to have everything planned on January 2nd, which drives me cuckoo. So
Mm.
for me, it's like January is this, let me get into the new year. But maybe you
Yeah.
already have some ideas to share.
Well, as normal, I always have about a million different things going on in the background. Lots of them are just developing different strands of the core truths to work with different environments. So, I have a group session which is going to be opening up in February with a very small group. Um, and then individual work is always there in the background, but more sort of working towards organizations because I had an amazing experience working with an organization who'd had a total restructure in the business, and it really stopped communication. And
Mm,
so they had tried lots of other strategies, and I think a lot of what's out there in the corporate sort of side of things is very templatey. And so I wanted to create something that felt like it really evaluated the business as the
mm,
people within it and the ethos of the business, and allowed it to move forward in a way that was more bespoke, more tailored for what they needed as their business and the people in it. So there's that.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah,
Interesting ventures in
yeah,
various
lots of different
aspects.
things.
But actually, I can understand slowly now that we're getting into core truth number two and then number three, that this system can apply to anyone and any group of peoples as well. Because if it's complex to be human, then it's even more complex to be a bunch of humans together trying to achieve some goals, whether business goals or whatever goals.
Yeah, so I'd run one beta group. This next one in February is going to be beta group as well. So it's a much reduced cost to being part of this group, and a lot of it has to do with refining it further. So I've taken the first one, had amazing results from it, but what I found is we did sort of like a questionnaire which allowed me to evaluate what each person needed and then adapt the content for the training
Mm,
that we did
hmm.
later in the week around the people who were in the group. And so it was really interesting for me because a lot of trying to do things at volume is ends up being more template driven because you
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
to for the numbers. So for me, it was about how can I put this out there in a way that feels like individual work, but they get the benefit and the of being in a group and actually that power that
Hmm.
shared connection can bring. And so it
Yeah,
was a
it's
great
not
sort of
just about being the group thing being cheaper. It's about you get something different working in a
yeah.
group. Mm,
Yeah, because I believe
absolutely.
in the power of groups, and it is something that I want to sort of take forward. And it will be interesting to sort of see because at the moment people join, as individuals, and so you can end up with people from very different walks of life. And
Hmm.
it is amazing how it's humbling. You find that common ground that we're all struggling. Life is always
Mm,
complex, and that these are things that can help map you out of it and I give you some clarity.
great. So again, go and investigate Nicole's website where you will find all the information about this, I'm guessing.
Mm.
And yeah, thank you so much for coming for a second time. And I will see you soon for a third time.
Yes,
um,
absolutely.
Again, we have no dates, but we will, don't worry, listeners, we'll find a way. And thank you very much for listening to this episode of Isaya's Inspiring Evenings. The next one will be next time. Bye for now. Thanks again, Nicole. Bye.
Bye.